Thanks for listening to Investor Insights, a behind-the-scenes look at investing with Fund That Flip. This series provides an insider's look at how our business works and answers your frequently asked questions so that you can make better investment decisions with your hard-earned capital. Now, our founder and CEO, Matt Rodak.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Fund That Flip's Investor Insights. I'm your host, Matt Rodak, founder and CEO here at Fund That Flip. And today we have Kendall Krawchuk, our VP of Marketing, joining us for a discussion on how we market to and attract borrowers to our platform. Kendall, in addition to being a real marketing maven, also has a really interesting background, which we'll get into here in a bit. But with that, welcome to the show, Kendall.
Thanks, Matt. Super excited to be here.
Glad to have you. Before we jump into all the cool things that you and your team are working on from a marketing and sales enablement perspective, give us a bit of your background and how you found your way to Fund That Flip.
Sure. So like you said, I do kind of have a unique background. I kind of think about it as a previous life. I was actually working on my PhD in Russian literature, of all things. And during that time, I was really fortunate enough to receive a Fulbright scholarship to study and teach and research, work on a research project in Russia, specifically Siberia. Really, the things that I was learning and studying in textbook Russian, the things I learned in the classroom was totally different from what people were speaking on the street in the real world, particularly kind of the 20 to 25-year-olds that I was teaching and living among. So a big takeaway of that time was it really forced me to adapt my communication style and really learn how to listen to people and apply what I learned to better communicate with them and kind of survive in a way.
Siberia to Cleveland, Ohio. So it must feel so warm there.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Was working on my PhD, came to the realization that academia was not for me. So really kind of had to make the pivot and figure out what I was passionate about and what I actually found engaging and intellectually engaging. So I really drew on some of my informal experience that I had in coding and programming. And actually back to Cleveland, Ohio, I was able to find an internship in digital marketing where I thought that I'd be able to kind of really flex my intellectual muscles and kind of apply the things that I had learned informally in a business setting. So in that internship, I was really responsible for building online communities of academics, technologists, and scientists for a technology transfer company. And so what was really cool was that it was really this neat combination of the creative side of marketing, which was figuring out messaging and email marketing and copy for a website and translating that into technical languages for these kind of communities, these technical communities online.
So a different type of Russian almost, right? Like how do we take super technical things and translate that into something that people can communicate around? That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. It's totally a translation method in its own right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, really kind of building my career from the ground up. So I had that internship, and after that, really found the opportunity to dive into real estate and kind of cut my teeth in the real estate industry at a software company that was based in Solon, Ohio. So worked for a global enterprise software company there, where I was responsible for the portfolio marketing for an investment management suite of products, specifically around investment in commercial real estate. So the challenge that the company faced was that they had significant market share of property management software, but they were really trying to use that same value proposition marketing their investment management suite. So really what I was responsible for was, and where I had a large impact, was really shifting that focus away from the property management language and really identifying who that core customer was for that investment management suite. So what I realized there was that the needs and challenges of people that were using investment management software, particularly in real estate, so fund managers, treasury managers, CFOs of REITs and private equity firms, they really had different needs and challenges from, the day-to-day property manager that might be using the regular suite of products. Mm-hmm. So we really, and what I was responsible for was really shifting that focus to customer-centric messaging and figuring out what resonated with the investment management buyers and then ultimately the end users of that software.
Yep. It's and that's really interesting, right? And we deal with this a little bit with what we're doing now is, how do we build a website, which is primarily our primary marketing vehicle, to communicate to two very different audiences, right? Like on one side of our business, we have borrowers who are looking to borrow capital and they have a whole set of needs and messages that, they're looking for. And on the other side, we have lenders that are looking for something completely different, but they both go to the same place. So you've got some good experience in terms of like, how do you leverage a brand and communicate to two different constituencies, which is not an easy feat.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So that's cool. So you went, started off with a track to be in the academic world. It was on a PhD track, had the opportunity to do a Fulbright, which by the way is pretty cool and pretty remarkable. Spent some time in Siberia, learned Russia, also learned, maybe this isn't for me. Let me try to apply these skills into a different world, and ended up in marketing, which I think actually makes a whole lot of sense. How did you find your way to Fund That Flip? And then maybe talk to us a little bit about, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, for the firm.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I love this story too. I had listed a profile on a site called AngelList, which is kind of like the LinkedIn for venture capital and startups. And I had listed that I was interested in offering consulting around fintech, real estate, something that was a little bit more dynamic than kind of the enterprise software that I was involved with. I kind of forgot about the fact that I had a profile on there. And Matt, you ended up reaching out to me and said, hey, you're in Cleveland, we have an office there. I think you might be interested in this marketing role that we're trying to build and really scale the company to the next level. So got to know a little bit more about Fund That Flip and was really taken by, the focus on fintech and the opportunity to really grow the marketing program and evolve it, and ultimately my own career. And I was kind of sold on day one, and haven't looked back since, really.
Yeah, and that worked out great for us too. So I'm glad you made that profile.
Cheers.
So what's a day-to-day look like now at Fund That Flip? And I think, maybe we'll give a little bit of introduction. So when we started the company back in 2015, we were trying to figure out how do we get people to know about us and come to the platform and ultimately apply for a loan. And when we first got started, we were getting $2 or $3 million worth of loan applications per month, and we made some tweaks and tried some different channels and got that up to $15 or $20 million a month. And I think when you joined, we were probably around, I don't know, $60 or $70 million worth of loan applications per month. I want to say, we're pretty consistently now seeing 200 million or more of leads per month without really significantly increasing the amount that we spend to drive that traffic. So maybe just talk to us a little bit about, what you and your team are doing and have done to kind of really focus in on how do we drive more value? How do we drive more loan applications? How do we get our message out to our borrowers? And also, like, how do we segment the market, to make sure that, it's one thing to get $200 million worth of leads. It's another thing to get $200 million worth of good leads, right?
Exactly.
So what are you guys doing, I guess, on a day-to-day basis, and even maybe from a higher level strategic perspective, how do we really get the message out and drive, borrowers back to the platform so we get a shot at booking their loans?
It's super fascinating how we've been able to kind of scale that loan application volume, like you said, without, a dramatic increase of the spend. I really attribute that to the fact that day to day, we are really driving our marketing initiatives by digital inbound. So what does that mean? So inbound marketing is basically a strategy, a methodology for attracting leads based on certain strategies like paid advertising, what we call PPC or CPC. So when you search for something on Google and you see those three results at the top that say ad in tiny letters next to it, that's digital paid advertising, that's PPC. And kind of the flip side of that is the organic search results, what we call the strategy around that is called SEO, or search engine optimization. So kind of these two big channels are the main drivers of our digital inbound marketing. And really, it's the way that most of our leads find us through Google or some other search engine platform.
So it starts with identifying, right? What is a borrower searching for when they're searching for a potential solution to their problem, which is financing their projects, right? So whether they're searching for fix and flip loan or private money loan or hard money loan, the ultimate goal, right, is to get them to come visit our website. And we do that primarily through at least two strategies, right? The first one being PPC or pay-per-click, meaning optimizing our AdWords campaign or our campaigns for the things that we think our borrowers are searching, so their ads show up when they're searching for it, right? And that's kind of, we pay for those. Second one, what you're talking about is organic, which is like developing a content strategy, right? Mm-hmm. So the Google algorithms, however they work, know that our site is specific to those keywords that are being searched as well. Is that kind of the right way to think about it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we want to make sure, and this is kind of an ongoing comprehensive initiative, we want to make sure that the content, the copy, the pages on our website are attractive and relevant to whatever our borrowers or our lenders are searching, so that Google will serve them up, fund that flip when they're typing in those search terms.
Yep, got it. It's kind of like if you build it, they will come, right? Exactly. Like people don't know you exist, so you got to find a way to let them know you exist. Step one.
Exactly, right. So to really better qualify that volume of search traffic that is coming in of those borrowers and lenders that are finding us, we really needed an efficient handoff way that we could pass those leads from our marketing initiatives to the sales team, so that they could, ultimately qualify those leads and then develop them into opportunities and ultimately close a deal with them or get them to invest on the platform.
Yep. And I think even I think I know where you're going with this around some of the things that we do from a sales automation and sales enablement perspective. But maybe I'll step us back one, because I think this is an important thing that you guys have done a lot of work on and has been a huge help, right? Is there's a number of different people that are going to search for something that will lead them to our website. Chances are when they get to our website, they're looking for information, right? They're trying to figure out and trying to determine, does Fund That Flip offer a solution to my current problem, right? So a big part of that is how do we message to that borrower, to that lender, if it's a lender campaign, what it is that our unique value proposition is and who we serve. And I think one of the things that you've done, pretty much right when you started with us, was really define, what we call personas, right? So the different types of potential customers that are out there, how do those customers kind of segment, right? And what do they share in common? And then how do we make sure that we're communicating the right thing, right, to the right person? So it's kind of like the example you gave earlier of, I learned all this Russian in the textbook. And then when I got up to Siberia and I started talking to the 20 and 25-year-olds, like none of them talked like that. And you had to adjust, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Like we're driving people back to our website, and then we need to communicate with them on whether or not, like, hey, we have what you need. Here's the next step. So maybe just talk to us a little bit about like the concept of a persona, and maybe explain kind of, or give us what our personas are for our borrowers. And then maybe an example of like how we use that to message appropriately.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, that's one of the first initiatives that I really took on, which was carefully developing what those customer profiles look like. So as you said, we call those personas, and that enables us to really segment our messaging and our audience so that we're, like you said, effectively communicating with them. So I think the thesis that we started with, and you and I worked closely together on this, Matt, was defining who our customers are. So we took stock of our customer base and really pulled out what were the key identifiers that made up these customers, so that we could come up with a profile for them.
It almost starts with, right, like what is our product set and what is the right type of person that we can serve, right? What does that person look like? Somewhat on a spectrum, right? And then what are also the people that like we just know we can't serve, right? So it's somewhere on the spectrum, right? So, for us, there's the person that's watched the HGTV shows, wants to get into flipping houses and has never done it before on one end of the spectrum. All the way on the other end of the spectrum is, the borrower that's, doing 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 flips a month, has a team, has a company, right? And like probably has access to bank financing and a number of other things. And then there are a bunch of people kind of in the middle, right? And like there's different products for different ends of the spectrum, right? And like I think what we try to do as concisely as we could is figure out, okay, what do the people have in common that we serve best, from a level of experience to liquidity to credit to location to a number of different things, right? So yeah, so maybe talk to us like the guy all the way on the, I'm holding my left hand up on the left end of the spectrum that's just getting started, to the person that's all the way on the right end of the spectrum, and then kind of the two personas in the middle.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, on the just watched HGTV and really wants to start getting into the game, we identified one persona, pretty self-explanatory name. He's a newbie Nick. Probably doesn't have any experience, maybe looking to fund his first deal. On the far right side of that spectrum, we have somebody that has really figured out their strategy. They have the systems and processes in place. They might have a particular style of project that you can kind of identify them by. And that would be our repeat Ron, right? He's got his systems in place. He knows what he's doing. And then kind of in the middle, where we really look to target and kind of attract leads are the two personas we've called our part-time Pete and our full-time Frank. And really, it's what we've been able to do is really fully flesh out who that ideal customer is, and we believe that that's our full-time Frank. He's probably doing this full-time. Maybe he's looking to, in terms of his goals, maybe he's looking to scale from working on 5 successful projects a year to the place that he can get 20 or more projects done per year. And then as we pinpoint what the goals and kind of the challenges are that our full-time Frank has, his ultimate goal is to make his business more profitable, maybe penetrate a new market. We can really then speak to what his challenges and what his goals are and serve him up the kinds of messaging and content and ultimately the product offering and services that's going to resonate best with him. We really dug into this full-time Frank, and we kind of rounded him out with particular demographic data that we found kind of characterized a lot of our customers. And so that's why he even has a name that really brings him to life, right? So alliterative, it's a nice mnemonic. We can easily remember, full-time Frank, so that, when marketing passes off these kinds of customers to sales, they're able to easily identify, oh, hey, that's a full-time Frank, or hey, I know this guy's a newbie Nick, so that I, communicate with him differently based on that.
Yeah, and like I can't underestimate like how big this was for our business of really pinning down like who is actually our ideal customer, both from a where we want to spend time and energy and effort, but also message to, but also like newbie Nicks will hopefully eventually become part-time Pete's and eventually full-time Franks and great customers. But there's because of the way our product is designed today, there's not a lot we can do for them today. So by messaging that appropriately on the website, like we save Nick a lot of time, right? Like Nick doesn't have to go through the effort and energy of applying for a loan and getting, turned away hours, days, or weeks later. Like he can kind of self-discover that through the messaging and move on. Similarly, repeat Ron that's already got really efficient financing and the cost is at a point that maybe isn't right for us and has a lot of it worked out, like can also maybe say, okay, like these guys will be good for these types of projects, but for the most part, like it seems like I've got a pretty good deal with my current business. Whereas the part-time Pete's and the full-time Franks that really need the reliability and the scalability and the fast responsiveness, like all of the things that we've tried to build our business on, like our messaging resonates with those guys and they're compelled to act, which for us is somehow get in touch with us, right? Apply for a loan, hit the chat bot, send us an email, give us a call, whatever they prefer. By being super laser focused on like who it is we serve and what we offer them, I think we've seen it, right? And the number of quality applications that we're now taking in.
Right, exactly. And what I love about marketing is that the software and the automation that goes along with the software, it really allows us to easily segment our leads and kind of qualify them as specific personas so that we can automatically start to serve them up content or put them in an email nurture campaign. Because ultimately, if a newbie Nick comes to our site, it probably doesn't make sense for us to lend to that person, right? It's more risk for us and for our lender side of the business. But ultimately, also, ultimately people change. People are people. So if a newbie Nick's challenge today is how to get his first project funded, we still want to be a value add resource or partner for him.
Yep.
Right. So part of our mission is being a responsible lender and helping our customers and our prospects get more profitable. So in particular, the example of the newbie Nick, one thing that we do offer people that we've identified as that persona, we provide them a first timer's guide to getting deals funded, which gives them a really clear outline of a strategy to get started, even if it's not with us at this point. So, and on our side, it allows us to keep them engaged and really show that we're a value add partner. And then ultimately, ideally when that newbie Nick gains some experience and then evolves into a part-time Pete or a full-time Frank, we can reactivate that person and really potentially convert them into a customer because of the fact that we've built that foundation for a long-term relationship and not just short-term profit. Yep.
So very true. It's like, creating new customers through the right nurturing and like you said, value add. One of the things that I love about marketing, and I think marketing is probably the most misunderstood part of all business. Like everyone, I think, just thinks like, oh, like slogans and colors and logos and like TV commercials. But it really is like very scientific, right? Like, and we use a ton of data around, words work, or, analyzing the cohorts of our borrowers and how much potential business is within kind of different groups of borrowers that signed up at different parts of the process, and try to feed all that back into, I call them science experiments, right? Like, let's test a thesis and let's see if we can, run a campaign or, do some email or do a call blitz with the sales team. And all of that, I think, kind of requires a lot of technology and automation and different things on the back end. So maybe just kind of to wrap us up here, kind of last thing we'll talk about, some of the tools and some of the tech, and, take this, I guess, in any direction you want. Some of the things we're doing on the marketing automation and really sales enablement side of the business to, leverage all the data that we're taking in about our customers and how we can serve them.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. That's what I love and what I think is so misunderstood about marketing. In 2019, it is really driven by the creative and the analytical. I think the creative side that ties back to the fact that, we are communicating with humans who have all these emotions that we really need to listen to and activate so that we can figure out what the best product or service is to meet their needs. But the analytical side of things allows us to constantly give us a feedback loop and constantly refine how we're communicating these benefits to prospects and leads and to our sales team. So one of the things that I really love, and you mentioned testing a thesis, one of the things that I really love about marketing, in particular the tools that we use, is the ability to do A/B testing. So for anybody that's received any of our emails, you may have seen that, for example, a subject line that lands in your inbox for a featured investment, that might change from day to day or from week to week. And that's because we're constantly looking at the open rates and the click-through rates and seeing how people are interacting with our communication and our messaging to see what's really speaking to people and what gets them excited about our brand and about Fund That Flip. So you may be part of the next scientific thesis.
And not even know it. And not even
know it. Yeah. Well, now you know.
Now you know. Yeah. Well, this is great, Kendall. I think, marketing is one of my favorite parts of the business, and you're obviously doing a lot of great work here for us. And I think, just to kind of maybe wrap all of this up from a lender's perspective, right? And I think why it's important and why we're even talking about marketing, for our podcast, it's primarily focused on our investor side or lender side of our business. Is to me, this is important from even we look at it even from like a risk management perspective and quality of deal flow perspective, right? So if we're bringing in, $200 million worth of leads and they're all like from newbie Nicks, nothing against newbie Nick. I really don't have anything against Nick, I promise. But, right, we're attracting the wrong type of borrower, with the wrong types of project or a higher risk project because our messaging isn't right. The result of that is we end up funding a higher percentage of lower quality loans, which for you that are listening, that are investors, means you have less quality to invest in, right? So like we really see marketing as this may sound crazy, but like as somewhat of a part of the team on the underwriting and risk management side, we've got to be able to attract good borrowers that have good projects for us to fund good projects and offer those up to our lenders. And all of that starts with like a really deep understanding of who is that core customer? What do they care about? Where do they hang out and live on the internet? And how do we get to them? Because without that, right, like we end up with some adverse selection in our business, which we don't want. So all to say, like marketing, I think plays a very important part on like, if you're making investments on our platform or any other platform, understanding like where those leads are coming from and the quality of those leads is like something that I think is important to understand. And I think, what Kendall and her team are doing is really like really good stuff to make sure we're reaching the right person that has the right project so that we can fund them and ultimately offer good opportunities for you guys as investors on the platform.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I would add to that is don't just take our word for it, but look at the deals that we're funding and tell us, give us your feedback on what you want to see more of, the kinds of deals that are attractive to you, because that's really our commitment is helping you figure out, what makes sense in terms of our loan offerings.
So yeah, to Kendall's point, like give us your feedback on anything and everything, whether it's on the deals that we're offering, whether it's this podcast, what you want to hear about, investor relations at fundthatflip.com. Kendall, get us out of here on a more fun note. What do you like to do when you're not working the marketing leads at Fund That Flip? What do you do for fun?
So for fun, I am a very amateur runner and also a very amateur yogi, but I am actually at this point pursuing my yoga teacher's license with my husband. So that's in the works right now. So that's what I spend my time doing outside of Fund That Flip.
You got what, a marathon or two under your belt now?
I have one.
Okay.
It was, that was a year and a half ago, and ended up choosing a course apparently that was extremely hilly. So for my next one, I'm going to choose a really flat one.
I've heard New York's got a pretty good marathon. Maybe you should try that one sometime.
Nice. I'll have to make it out there and do that one.
Well, this is great, Kendall. Appreciate you sharing some of the insights on what we're doing here from a marketing perspective. Some good stuff. For those of you who are listening, be sure to check out our blog for more podcasts like this, as well as some additional content. And definitely tune in next week. We will have another member of the Fund That Flip team on, talking about some of their background, as well as some other insights into how our business works here at Fund That Flip. So thank you again, Kendall. And thank you all out there listening. Until next time, Matt signing off.